Hey everybody, I'm back for my pre-fight breakdown. UFC Fight Night: Blaydes versus Volkov. I didn't do a post-fight or a pre-fight individually for the Jessica I fight, and the reason is I did the pre-fight with Ryan on our podcast, and the card totally changed in between. Three fighters didn't make weight. There were a bunch of shifts and changes. So even a lot of the stuff we talked about beforehand, and then we made it the night before or something like that, just everything changed because we did it the night before weigh-ins. And so the card wasn't even the same. So doing a post-fight breakdown of that would be possible, but a lot of stuff we talked about beforehand just didn't occur because the matches were so different. Anyway, so that's why I didn't do that. For this one, this gives me a very interesting opportunity looking at Blaydes versus Volkov because there's so many fights that I'm going to judge on different criteria. Meaning, when I look at a fight, there are a lot of things I look at. And a lot of these matchups have so many of those elements that make it interesting. That's what makes a good fight card to me. So when I walk you through the breakdown, I'm going to talk about the things that I look at when I look at fights and who I think is going to win and who I think is going to lose and all this stuff. Okay, let's start at the bottom of the card. Jim Miller versus Roosevelt Roberts at a catch weight, 160 pounds. This is the classic up-and-comer looking to make his mark versus the grizzled veteran. Now, factors here. 9 times out of 10, you go with the up-and-comer on this one. Every now and then they run into the old-timer that still has enough fight left in him or has a savvy game plan they're not quite prepared for. But usually you go with the up-and-comer on this one. Here are some things that make me hesitate with that. Now, let me compare this to, for example, Sean O'Malley, Eddie Wineland, okay? Jim Miller has been through some wars with the absolute best in the division. You could argue he's fought more top talent than anybody else in the division. And that's saying a lot, considering how stacked this place is. So, he hasn't had the brakes beaten off of him yet. In his last few fights, of course, he lost his last one. He's been competitive. Of course, beating Clay Guida with the guillotine choke, the Jason Gonzalez fight. He's in it enough that I don't get that feeling that it's completely beaten out of him. The sword is still sharp enough that he can do some damage. Of course, losing decision to Scott Holtzman, that's going to happen. But it isn't the case of this guy's completely shot and they're throwing him to the new guy just to build his record. So Jim Miller is solid. He's well-rounded. He's tough. Determined, nothing scares him, nothing frightens him, still has some knockout power, still savvy with his submission game. So, he still has the tools to make it at least a competitive fight, if not win. Roosevelt Roberts, 2 things really stand out to me. Number one, he doesn't have necessarily the one-shot physical tools of a Sean O'Malley, where he's just going to walk over the old guy. His fights, since he's gotten into the UFC, he's comfortable with going to decision. He's comfortable with long fights. He turns up the pressure and then breaks guys down. We see a smart game plan from him because he's not, an explosive knockout specialist who's going to wreck everybody. He's got to outthink certain fighters. And he's been doing that in the UFC. And what I look for with guys like him who were great on the regional level, are they used to long fights in the UFC? Can they handle not blowing everybody out in the first round because they're outmatched? So far, he's shown that ability. Quick turnaround, though. That's, to me, a big issue in this fight, is we just saw him last month, obviously, when he took on Brock Weaver on the undercard, not the undercard, but the Burns-Woodley fight. So he's turning around fighting again. He's young enough to do that, and I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. What you have to remember is when you're coming up in the before the UFC in your first 10 or 12 fights, people fight really regularly, sometimes twice a month, because that's the schedule it takes to kind of get those fights under your belt. He's still young enough, I think, that his body wouldn't be broken down. He fought a nice, good, measured fight against Brock Weaver, didn't take a lot of damage. I think he's okay and can bounce back quickly from that. All that being said, I would go Roosevelt by decision over Jim Miller. He's tough to beat. Tough to stop, all right? He still has a chin. We haven't seen that go off a cliff yet. But I just don't think he can keep up with the young buck. Roosevelt, tall, explosive, good submission games, tough to get a read on the guy. I think all those things combined with the Jim Miller, who has slowed down significantly in the last few fights. I think he's a bit too much for him. Roosevelt Roberts by decision. I know that was kind of long. Next one up, Lyman Good, Bilal Mohamed. Lyman Good, coming off having coronavirus, he got over it, healed up well. I'm assuming everything's back on track with him. I'm assuming he recovered well and there are no lingering effects. That's my first thing. This guy's a physical specimen, real power, big for the weight class. The problem is Bilal Mohamed, and I got to call a lot of both of these guys, I've called a lot of their fights in Bellator before they got to the UFC. And Bilal Mohamed angles very well. He throws hands when he has to, and he takes you down. That's how he wins fights. He's opportunistic with his submission game. We saw that in the Sato fight last time he fought. He can submit you, but it's pretty much takedown, 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 angle, throw punches when he needs to. He's not going to engage in the kind of physical brawl or exchange that's going to benefit Lyman good. AJ Matthews, for example, when he fought him in Bellator, AJ's a great striker, great kickboxer, just never got a read on him. Was kind of following him around the whole time, and every time he'd find him, he'd change levels and take him down. That's what Bilal Mohamed does. That's his whole thing. He tends to win by decision. He got a submission over Sato last time, but 7 in a row by decision. He has no problem winning and losing, going the distance. That's his thing. So I don't think this is an entertaining fight. I just think stylistically it's a bad one for Lyman Good, who has had trouble with his takedown defense in the past, has trouble with his submission defense in the past, has trouble keeping fights on the feet. And when he does, he can knock you out, but I don't think he's able to keep it on the feet against Bilal Mohamed. My pick is Bilal Mohamed by decision and probably a boring fight. Raquel Pennington, Marion Reneau. Look, I was there when Raquel Pennington took on Amanda Nunes. She just didn't belong in there. There's no shame in that. Amanda Nunes might be retiring because there's nothing else for her in the division. The key to me when I look at the Pennington fight is Pennington has only had bad performances against truly elite fighters. Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandamy, Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm again, Jessica Andrade, she lost to her and then beat her. When she has lost, in the last several years, it's been to the best of the best. She hasn't had that down performance against a no-name fighter. So she's just a level below the elite. So every time she fights one of those elite fighters, she ends up on the short end of the stick. But do I think that's going to happen in this case? No, she's not facing one of those. Marion Reneau just isn't that fighter. Marion Reneau, she's lost her last two, both of them by decision. I remember the Kunitskaya fight, and Katzengano. I remember both of those, but how can I say it? Nothing stands out about it. I called the loss to Katzengano. I was at the Idaho fight. And solid all the way around. She didn't do anything stupid. She doesn't do anything poorly. She comes forward well. Decent footwork. I just don't see that X factor that's going to get her over a fighter who's only failed against elite fighters. You know what I mean? I don't see that step-up kind of skill. I don't see her being great at anything. And that's it. Also, she's facing Raquel Pennington, who has a really opportunistic submission game. We saw that against Ashley Evans-Smith. We saw it against Andrade when she beat her. If you give up something, she'll take it and rip it. Very, very opportunistic, meaning she's not a positional submission person. She'll catch you in a scramble, and once she has something, she just goes for it. I think that's going to be Reneau's downfall in this one. I would say Pennington probably by submission. I just see Pennington having a little more in the tank, and she's having faced better fighters who walk in with a little more confidence against someone who doesn't have a ton of momentum right now in Reneau, having lost her last two. Okay, Josh Emmett, Shane Burgos. This is a tough one because I like both these guys a lot. Josh Emmett built like a brick shithouse, has had trouble in the past actually making weight for this weight class, but strong as shit, excellent kickboxer, real knockout power. We saw that against Bektik. We saw it against Michael Johnson. He can put your lights out. Ricardo Lamas. What am I seeing for Shane Burgos? Now, I almost put Burgos in a similar category. He's big for the weight class. He likes to throw big punches. More brawler than technical striker, although he has decent technique. He likes to be the aggressor, likes to come forward a lot. Both these guys live to knock you out. It's a matter of who can do it. The difference maker when I break down fights like this is, well, who's done it against better talent? They both do similar stuff. They have similar physical gifts. Burgos maybe a little bit more explosive. Josh Emmett a bit stronger. I guess that would be the physical difference between the two. Who's done it against better talent? It's been so far Josh Emmett doing it against better talent. So I think it's a stand-up war. I don't see either guy changing that up. Shane Burgos, of course, on a nice streak. He's won his last three, but the one step-up name he fought, Calvin Kattar, he lost by TKO. That was a great fight, by the way, if you don't remember it. But was doing well early, and then Kattar kind of found the rhythm and came back and knocked him out. Yeah, he did it against Cub Swanson. That was a split decision, very close fight, and Cub isn't the fighter he used to be. So Josh Emmett has just done what he's done against better talent. And so I'm really back and forth on this one. I'm going with Josh Emmett, probably by knockout, probably once again in the third round. I think Burgos is explosive, so he probably takes his time early and then figures him out late, much the way Calvin Kattar did. So I got to say Josh Emmett by late stoppage. Curtis Blaydes, Alexander Volkov. I really like both of these fighters. Called Alexander Volkov a lot of his fights in Bellator, called one of Curtis Blaydes in the UFC. This all boils down to Alexander Volkov, 6'7", tall, rangy, lanky, but real knockout power. Usually guys with his frame and his range and his versatility don't hit that hard. You know, they kind of pick you apart, and he became a much better power striker later in his career. So don't let his frame fool you. That dude can knock you out. And also, he has the ability with that frame and with that style. He almost throws a Kyokushin-style kick. If you ever study Kyokushin, it comes right up. Boom. It's very hard to see. It's very quick and powerful. And so his versatility on the feet, that's his ace in the hole. The problem in this fight he's going to have with Curtis Blaydes is Curtis Blaydes going to win more ways. He's the better wrestler. He has a better submission game. He's a decent striker in his own right, and he has no problem winning by decision. If Volkov wins this fight, it's because of his striking. Either he outstrikes him enough to win a decision, or he knocks him out. That's really his only way to win. He has to outstrike him for the entire fight. Remember, this is a 5-rounder. Or he's got to knock him out, which he does have the power to do. I really think he can. But Curtis Blaydes can just do more. I really believe Curtis Blaydes is the number 4 heavyweight in the UFC. The problem is he's solidly number 4, meaning I don't see him beating Stipe, I don't see him beating DC, and he's already had 2 opportunities against Francis Ngannou, couldn't win either one. But I don't see anyone below that number 4 beating him either. We saw against Junior Dos Santos, he has knockout power on his own right. His striking looked very, very good. Dos Santos doesn't have the chin he used to, but we saw a vicious ground and pound against Alistair Overeem. Once again, that was a fight I called in Chicago, and once he got him down, man, that elbow over the top just exploded in between Alistair Overeem's eyes, man. Great stuff. So he can ground and pound you. He can take you down, has good striking, and has an excellent gas tank. So I don't think Volkov can't win. I just think Curtis Blaydes has more ways of doing it. So I think Curtis Blaydes wins. I don't know how much that advances him, considering I think he's stuck in that 4 spot. And basically the top 3 above him, remember, Ngannou's already had a title shot, although he's got momentum right now. Stipe or DC or whomever, one might retire, one might keep going. He's got to wait for those top 3 to kind of cycle through, and then he's going to get a shot. That's what I really think. Curtis Blaydes, I'll go championship round stoppage, 4th, 5th round. Okay, so those are my picks. Enjoy, and I'll be back afterward to own them as I always do. Thank you.